What up, YouTube? This is a response to Sean not being infringed and end up being one for the Haas on the whole cell phone deal. Uh, logistics. Lamb Dog a long time ago mentioned that your little city government infringes on your rights more than you know the federal. I still agree with that theory. I also agree with it on the little guy fucks you over more in privacy than the big guy. The company I work for is like many other businesses. We have what's called a National Operations Center, or AKA the NOC. It looks like fucking war games, but a little bit smaller. They got fucking projectors, projecting on screen, on walls, and all this shit, and they can literally tell you what all 70,000 employees are doing at any time. They can punch up their phone and listen to their phone calls. They can punch up their computers and watch their screen and everything else. And it's all legal because, well, there's disclaimers. I am not an advocate for it, but in actually the type of field I'm in, I really actually kind of think it's for the better. And I'm sure there's movie stars and everything else that would definitely agree with that. But unfortunately, these days, employers can snoop on your ass very easy. And same with ISPs, your internet service provider. If they really wanted to, they can crawl up your ass with a microscope and really look at things. And a lot of times when you sign up for service, you're really giving away your rights for them to go in and inspect your shit just because they're bored. And I know this for a fact because I used to work for an ISP and we used to do that. But we would do it for people that we thought were doing shit that was no good. Like we caught one jackass saying that he owned the company that we were and everything else. But anyway. And there was another guy with child porn bullshit that ended up going to jail. But anyway. My point on the whole, like they go back to Verizon or whatever, it's cracking cell phones is not as easy as tapping a home phone line and all that other bullshit. All the stuff and time and everything they need, technically, I'm not going to get into the bullshit Patriot Act and all this other hoopla crap that we all know is a bunch of shit. Doesn't matter how you look at it, it's a bunch of shit. But let's just say they're doing this shit illegally. Even if they have warrants, for them to sit there and try to crack every phone is going to be an extreme bitch. They can do it. It takes a lot of time, and by that time most people are smart enough to change phones and everything else, so by that time it's pointless. They have to start all over again. It's easier for them to go to AT&T, Verizon, and all that other stuff and get it from them. Now, your SMS messages, like I said before, those little text messages, those are saved for the most part. Usually your ISP, your phone company has them. What was it? Was it Verizon or was it AT&T? I had that they had them on your bill. They had all of them listed there. All of them. So you can't trust anything like that as being private, and they have a log of that. They also have a log of the cell towers that you've come across, during your time with them. They should not in any way have any type of recorded phone calls or anything else like that unless there's a warrant. And at that point, that information is saved and it's transferred directly to the party that has the warrant. It's not as retro. That part, the phone call part, is not retro. They might have a list of telephone numbers that you've called, but they don't have the actual phone call. That doesn't start until the warrant starts. So it comes to a thing where in reality it seems like the telephone companies would side with the government, but kind of the reality is they actually side more with the users. And I'll bring up Google as an example. There's been times that Google has been put in positions that they have told the government to go fuck themselves. They've done so because they know if they worked with the government, it could fuck them. So they told the government to go fuck themselves under privacy. Now, the phone companies have pretty much been the same. Same with the ISPs. The ISPs have pretty much been the same in this as well. This was even back when I worked at an ISP back in the 90s, before the first .com crash. And we were approached by a government entity to track someone, and the whole situation came about. A person brought in a computer into our office, and I worked on computers for not only, I was a network administrator and head technician, but I also worked on the client's computers. Expecting there's not that many places, so I split the profits. We're all good. One guy brought him in. He was being suspect as all hell. He wouldn't leave and everything else. Finally, I convinced him that I had to go do a service call, that when I got back and I had some time, I'd call him up and then we can work on his computer. And as soon as he left, I knew that there was something not right about it. And sure enough, I booted up his computer on my test bench, and right on the desktop there was a folder. And I double clicked that folder and went inside, and there was a bunch of pornography. Now, that's not unusual. Definitely not the first time I've seen pornography on a computer, but unfortunately for him, that pornography was not it was child porn. And at that point, I called the police department. I told them to come pick up this piece of shit computer and get it the fuck out of my office. Well, later on, a couple weeks later, there's some, I guess people will call them the alphabet people, came with a warrant and they plugged into our network and they were logging shit. And that in turn turned into an indictment on a whole bunch of other people, and it was one of the first internet child ring raids, whatever, in the 90s. They have some pretty awesome computer shit that they can do. They also got these things called honeypots that, it makes it attractive for people to try to hack, and in turn they're really fucking you. Basically a honeypot. But the cell phone thing is, they don't record your actual voice calls and everything else, because the amount of data that would eat up in hard drive space would just be so ridiculous that they could not afford to keep buying hard drives to keep this shit backed up. I mean, you look at some of these carriers, and one of them has 80 million people, so they're going to record calls for 80 million people. That's not feasible. Them alone would have to keep, them alone would take all the hard drives that Western Digital could make to record these phone calls. It's just not feasible. So yes, they do log your tower hits. They log your SMS messages. Now different carriers are a little different on that. And there's disclaimers on those ones, so people really need to look at that shit when they sign up or use those SMS deals. And they log, of course, the phone numbers that you call, but they don't log the actual call until there's a warrant. Any of the other stuff they log because of billing. Boom. And they don't turn that stuff over to the alphabet people until there's a warrant. So there's two different things that are being actually, well, there's two different aspects to look at it. One is being logged, that incriminates you. And then there's, the actual call itself that's not really being recorded until there's a warrant. Now, yeah, so the government, they could try to crack your phone, but they still need a warrant to do so. Yeah, I'm the fucking Patriot Act, but anywho. By the time, most of the time, they actually get a crack. I mean, Hollywood exploits this and makes it like they just punch in a couple things and the fucking thing unlocks. If it was that easy, trust me, I'd be listening to phone calls. I'm a voyeur. But anyway, yeah, so I hope that, I don't know, somewhat answers it. But now to Haas. I thought about this one for a good long time, and the only thing I could come up with is this. All that stuff is logged. All where the cards are sold. A lot of the times, a lot of those cards, you bring up the card from the counter or whatever, but they print you out a different one, like at 7-Eleven. Well, it's all, they know the date and time. And I mentioned that there was a bank robbery, and I don't know if the guy dropped the phone or whatever, but somehow those alphabet people got it, came in with a warrant, got the security tapes. Corporate stores generally have tapes, or they have a DVR that at least has 2 weeks to a month recorded before it rewrites itself. That's good to know. You can look into stores and you can see the type of video cameras. If they got the shitty video cameras, most likely they didn't get the brain of it, the DVR. That's the real, the costly deal. They probably didn't get the $1,000 DVR with the 3 terabytes worth of space, so most likely they can only record a few days at a time. But I still thinking, okay, if I really needed to have a phone and I really did not want to be on it, I think I'd go to one of these, gas stations or whatever that's selling it that has homeless people around, and then pay a homeless guy to pick that up and give him like $10 to go buy some Ripple or Thunderbird or something. That way, it doesn't look suspect to you, because if you ask somebody else, they're gonna go, wait a minute, why wouldn't you go get it? And then they would remember you. But a homeless guy, he ain't gonna remember shit. But in reality, after really thinking about it, you know what? I would maybe have one cell phone like that. I would not leave it on. No. And it's not the fact that they can record your calls. It's the fact that every time it's on, it pings a tower, so they can literally, watch you that way. I wouldn't do that. I'd only use it in emergencies. What I would do is I'd get a laptop and I'd use Skype, because if you buy those prepaid credit cards, by the time it takes them to track you down through Skype, get a warrant to get that information from Skype. Skype will turn over your credit card number. Then you got to get a warrant for there. You're going over here to here. By the time they get it, most likely even the best of security systems have already rewrote their DVR. So you're probably a lot safer there. Plus, the fact is, even if they get your MAC address, matter of fact, let me pull this open real quick. I want to show you the software. You probably have seen this before. This is, I'll show you in the cool mode. This is Wi-Fi Analyzer. So this is analyzing Wi-Fi hotspots around me. But Okay, let me go like this here. See these weird squiggly do numbers after the 2 wire and everything, that 00, semicolon, da da, semicolon, da. That's a MAC address. So even if they crack your Skype, you can keep remaking accounts and everything. Say even if they get your MAC address, it's a real big of a bitch, because you can drive around and get on public Wi-Fi's all over the place. Almost every fast food has it. Home Depot, Lowe's have it. A lot of grocery stores have it now. So you can sit outside and jump on their Wi-Fi. Okay, so now they will have to track you by account, but you keep changing your account up. Your IP address is going to be changing based on the Wi-Fi you get on. So at the best, they could try to do a MAC address search. It's going to be a big bitch. But maybe they get you. But here's the deal. With a laptop, you just swap out the hard drive and sell the damn thing on Craigslist. And then buy another one. Or even better, on a laptop, you can use external USB networking cards and stuff like that, which each networking device has a MAC address. My phone has one. This has one. My computer has one. My USB dongles have a MAC address and everything else. So you can get a USB networking adapter that has the ability to do an external antenna. You can put a magnet mount on your car. You can drive around and get Wi-Fi that way. And when it gets hot, you unplug the middle part, the little USB dongle, throw that sumbitch away, grab another one for $15, throw it all back together, and be on your way. Now you got a whole new MAC address. But the likelihood of them tracing you by MAC address is very, very small. Basically, at that point, you are really done piss someone off to go to that level. So it depends on the level of hatred from the government. And if you really want to be off of it, I would go the laptop and Skype. Because you can use Skype, you can use Google Voice, you can use Yahoo Messenger Voice. There's several of these little deals. And then the only thing you got to do is use the cell phone here and there to if you lose contact with whoever you have contact with in other ways, if use it as the absolute emergency backup so you don't waste a whole bunch of money. So I think the laptop and Skype is a much, much better deal. It won't help you in the woods, but then again, cell phone might not either. I don't know. I think I should stop thinking about all this. I don't need anybody in the alphabet community to come talk to me about any of that type of shit. But there are ways to go about it depending on the level of threat you feel from the government. The problem is it's going to become costly, and the biggest thing is you got to worry about is your identity being broken at the point of sale. And every one of those little phones and every one of those phone cards are all logged. They know where they bought and sold. So, yeah. Anywho, peace.